All right. As we are now recording, first I want to thank all of you guys or all of you people for showing up and, both supporting us by being contributors and or in some of your cases, submitting to our chapbook run as well as our issue and anthology runs. Honestly, Ink and Ivy was struggling for a really good bit of time. And it's why, like, if you guys were in the Euphoria anthology, you know better than the rest that the the release date for that anthology was pushed out significantly, in ways that we really didn't want it to be pushed out. And in the interest of being transparent, primarily it was because we were hit with a legal lawsuit. We did allude to this a couple times, on our Instagram as well as on our Twitter. But we were hit with a legal lawsuit over like trademark review, and because we are not very comfortable with having to genuinely like pay for lawyers to even argue that in the first place, we did end up rebranding to Ink and Ivy. And that process in itself took a while. Also, in the interest of being transparent, we're currently working on getting that trademarked so that we don't have to go through the process again, but not in like the evil way of us enforcing the trademark onto others. Um, but yeah, like overall, during that time period, I think, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for but for me, a large part of actually wanting to continue the magazine, because this was also when things were really rough for me, because I, had college applications and I was taking my finals and my APs, and it was like a rough time period for me personally, like even outside of what I was doing academically. And so part of actually maintaining this magazine, a large reason as to why I continued doing it in the first place was just because I had to put out this Euphoria anthology because it was important to me and it was important to everyone else who had been a part of it, both because, they actually wanted to be a part of it, because it was something that mattered to them, but also because, you want your work to be spread. And I guess all that's to say, this is the first contributor reading of Ink and Ivy. We are so, so, so happy to have you guys here and, to have you not only come out and support us in droves, like in to the amount that you have supported us, but also to continuously want to come and to hang out and to read your pieces, and especially, and maybe also this is again just my own experience, but reading the pieces is such a much more personal experience than just submitting them and then having them published. It feels more impersonal than when you're actually sitting on like wherever you're sitting, and reading them to other people. But thank you for being willing to come and share that with us. Um, so I guess we'll just jump right in. I've put I've put the list and order in which we are going to be reading in the chat. The first thing I'm actually going to end up doing is I will read contributor bios if I still have your bio. If not, you can totally email it to me, and I'll sneaky DM you right before the previous poet is done, and then you can just send it back to me, or you can just email it to the Ink and Ivy email, and I would totally love to do that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna read whatever bio that I have on file, and then you can read for 10 minutes. We're not going to cut you off at 10 minutes. We're also not going to, like, if you read below 10 minutes, we're not going to be like, you should read more. Woo! But, like, please stick to the 10-minute time as much as you can. So first, I would like to introduce a quite honestly fantastic poet, Adrian Badiola. Or Aldrin Badiola. Aldrin, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, lovely. Aldrin Badiola is a Filipino poet, a Best of the Net nominee. His works can be found in the Hopkins Review, Fleeting Days magazine, and elsewhere. He is the editor-in-chief of Artists from Maryland. He can be found reading his poetry on the backs of roadside diner menus. Now introducing Aldrin.
Thank you. I will be reading five. I'm Aldrin Badiola. I'll be reading five pieces from my shortlisted chapbook, Patrilineal. The first one is Apologia, after Fiona Liu and Daniel Liu. Tonight, I will teach my son to worship. I, a father, but also a silent God of my own worshiping. Selfishly, I hold rainwater in my palms and watch it roll down my arms. Damp and vulnerable under the moon, I sing devotionals from a throat cracked of silence, and my son's name rolls out. Maybe I am also a god of my undoing, self-referential, the way we forget we are boys. In that moment, the wind is a lyric penned by men with heresy on their lips. The river is silent, and I'm waiting in the grasp of rushing water, cold stomach, grazing my arms, waiting to tell my son how silence is a gospel myth. My son says he loves me. I tell him, kneeling, hands held in prayer, fingers convincing fingers they were meant to fold. The cathedral is a slaughterhouse for boys becoming men. I say, worship is learning to spin silence, jagged and rough with edges. Son, you will learn how to be a man when you repent with your pain. This next poem comes slightly after that. It is Creation of the Dear Boy. You ask for this deliverance so tender on your skin. You make an altar where you can worship and say, blessing the heart of man is a form of divination. The greatest punishment for a son is retribution. How a hand can curve painful and godlike, still and boylike. This is where we start the apocalypse. Here, I wonder whether sonhood is when men are just flesh and bone, oh, so vulnerable. Son, we are boys, and you know that is all we are. This next piece is titled The Inferno. We are cutting onions in the kitchen. All we hear is the knives on the cutting boards. We're making soup together. My father asks me to fetch the kerosene. I lug the tub into the kitchen as he finishes mincing the garlic. We're making soup, remember? He keeps dicing more garlic. Pour the kerosene. He takes a match from his pocket and lights the kerosene. I grab the knife from him and start to cut more onions. Behind my back, he keeps lighting matches and throwing them in the kerosene. The fire keeps growing. He grabs my hair and turns my head. Watch. I watch the fire storming. Isn't it beautiful? We sit beside the stove. One more. He throws another. This next piece is titled Evidence Corkboard. The camera shudders endlessly. This photographer is clearly inexperienced. The train leaves in 10 minutes, but he hasn't gotten the perfect shot. Pretend he is the hunter, a village sent to kill the wolf devouring the sheep. He's the vigilante nobody asked for, since nobody wants the photographer to discover his family story, horrified at the idea of the wolf being named. So they leave the wolf unnamed, the story untold, but the photographer is unsatisfied. The train can leave without him. He hears the leaves rustle and he kneels. Camera loaded, fatigued bones, emptied magazine. And this final piece is the ending piece of the chapbook titled Father-Son Portrait of Abstraction. He escapes from under my bed when I sleep. I throw my books at him to keep him away. Each page in my journal is a different poem, but they all end with failure. Here's one. A father and his son are fishing, and the father tells the son the bait is how you get the girl. The son is not a son, but a memory because he ran away to become a musician. The poem ends there. In another, I'm not ready to be a man for you. I wish you couldn't speak English so I could write about cooking rice with you and italicize your immigration. I want to publish a collection, and if it means lying, then I will lie. This one ends unfinished too. The monster is still hungry. The monster asks for another story. The first metaphor is done. We have three more, but not enough stories to fit them in. A rabbit's son is double prey. These stories start to blur together, and the monster wants more. A father, a son, and his son all walk into a bar. The bartender asks for the father's order, and they all say they want bourbon in a paper bag. Are you tired yet? The monster wants a story not about fathers, but this is all he's going to get. These stories are all I know how to poeticize. A father is all I can become. So I will father these stories until they are sick of it, and they will become fathers too. I cut the silence in half. The final story. A son tries to call his father back. The son missed the last three. The son is ready to try again. The monster is on my shoulders now. I tuck him into bed and I start to pen my final apology in my bedroom. A father and his son are holding hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Aldrin. That was really beautiful. Love that so much, especially. And I've read most of these pieces because I've, read the chapbook in itself, but also I love the imagery that is present and like vividly present throughout all of your pieces. When A and I were first reading through the chapbooks, we looked at yours and we said, this one for sure, because of just how the imagery plays about each other, how raw and vivid every single detail is. Okay, we'll move on to Grayson next. Grayson, I have your bio here. Yay. Okay. Grayson Buckley is a poet and nonfiction writer based in Arizona. They write about their experiences with queerness, mental health, community, and everything in between. Buckley graduated with a degree in English at Northern Arizona University, with an emphasis on creative writing, and has worked with and been published in other local literary magazines and publications. Outside of writing, Buckley likes to make signs, play Minecraft, make good coffee, and play with his cat, Orion. Now introducing Grayson Buckley.
Hello, can y'all hear me? Are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
Wonderful. Okay. Um, I have two pieces that I have gotten published with Ink and Ivy. I'm just going to read one of them. I'm going to read I had a poem that was in issue 1. Oh my God, sorry, my stuff all refreshed, so I need to re-find it. Ah, okay, there we go. It is titled Soliloquy of a Sinner Looking for Salvation. I walk the earth with an angel. It silently saves my soul every day, salvation coming from words like honey dripping sweetness at every corner. I drink them all up, take them as communion, filled with adoration and cavities from an insatiable sweet tooth, a stomachache, toothache, headache rolled into a soul who speaks in sonnets. The way I love you makes my stomach move in waves and currents. I am nothing but a small boat upon the crashing crests of its smile. I am drowning in compassion, and the salt water cleanses my wounds, and the sugar stuck in my teeth keeps me clinging to it like a life raft. I'd sing 1,000 songs if it meant it'd stay forever to listen, pick the lyrics apart and skin and gut me and cast me back off to sea. I write poetry like scratched notes on crumpled brain tissue. I'd let it lobotomize me. I walk the earth with an angel, and I am nothing more than a sinner wishing to be as sweet and bright as it is, to hear its voice and be led back to the light. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We also really loved this piece when we first read it, obviously, because it's been published. But, like, outside of that, we really did love it. We thought there was a lot of really wonderful imagery in it, in itself. And I know I said this for Aldrin as well, but, like, really and truly, one of the things that both A and I look for in poetry is how the imagery plays off the theme of the piece overall. And with yours, it felt so, I want to say, like, in an odd way, it felt very comforting because the experience was so like raw and visceral in your own piece, but it was also, something that was extremely familiar in a very good way. And I like, at least I really, really loved it. Okay, up next we have Isabella C. Pozo. Isabella C. Pozo, she, they, is a lesbian writer, artist, musician, and cat lady through and through. They create to explore themselves, the taboo, and with the hopes to make art at least or at and with the hopes to make at least one other unheard person feel a little bit more seen. You can find her work published in recent issues of literary magazines such as Wireworm, Ink and Ivy, Antler Velvet, and Partially Shy, or on their Substack titled Collections of Yet Another Lesbian Writer. Now introducing Isabella C. Pozo.
Hi. Oh my goodness. Do we prefer cameras on or off, by the way? I totally forgot to ask at the start. Because I
I'm
like,
super like we're very okay with whatever you're comfortable with.
okay, because I like talking with my hands. I'm gonna turn my camera on. Hello.
Hello.
I like to show like everything is a performance now. But I'll read what I had in issue two along with Euphoria because I like those a lot. So I'll start with actually Tech Fuck Fest in issue two, and it goes wrapped wire embrace, headphones scattered to lost beats, off my head, off my rocker, nips only hardened by the movement of those well tight knotted sound tubes looped, into waking up being spooned by tech once more. My phone percentage drains after a long, hard night of getting me to finally snore away the neurons. Only climax to sleep with some sort of stimulant. Only lover for a while has been an angel's tentacle, a deviant cord, wrapped around my hips, my lips, my tits, and might as well move down to the clit buzzed with only vibrant vibe oral and plastic lube, literal digital fucking, lover of wire, lover of root, lover of connect with no connection. Constrict my breathing harder, falling asleep in your thin cyber limbs, make me your dirty computer, your hyperspeed mistress, your fleshy hard drive storage. Albeit all, once I go down on your mainframe, smell swallow that blood electric burn, reconfiguring my tongue to sweetly run along your motherboards, slurping up all the malfunctions. I am your unit undownloaded. Refresh, refresh, refresh to continue. Okay, and then next one, which I also love dearly. I wrote it after a huge move in my life. Is structure must mean harmony. So structure must mean harmony. Bug blood stained signatures on the ceiling, leaving this house marked with damp frustration, accumulating in the cracks of wall, paper bent to the will of sighing screams. In those nooks were left hungry memories and things rooted by fibers. Who can be so inconsiderate to see all these little dust bunny desert remedies and not crave more? Haven't hands done justice in building these close shut doors? Hasn't drink been more than satisfying compared to meal spread thin? Who are you to not be grateful for shelter, even if it collapses your plush lawns and vibrating arteries? Isn't that crushing safety better than the ripe dangers that await and risking that forest red green thing you call living? And then for my last one, which I think might be my favorite of the three that were included so far, this is in the Euphoria anthology. This is Eat Up. She says, bite down harder. Consume me like you mean it, with piercings tap dancing against my teeth and nectar shimmering on my tongue. Taste that pleasure in the silence. Breathe too loud and we might get caught. Our mothers aren't blind, but they may wish to be, because we are starving creatures that reflect too much of their lost hopes in sun dipped heterochrome eyes. Take that flesh in a sandwich time frame and lose yourself in the idea of love. But we both know this is just instinct. Eat up to down and back around again, bite harder and harder to feel some sort of rush. Let me pin you down and I'll show you what it means to be a woman. take back a power stolen and denied from me my whole life, and share it solemnly scrambled with a body of operatic moans. Because after all, this is how we get lost. This is how we attempt to love. This is Sappho's plight in a sunken, sex-stinking sofa. This is Chavella's ranchera belted out in the time of a hair pull. And I'll say a laced prayer to them every time before partaking in this glorious meal that's spread out for me tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We also really love that piece, or all three of those pieces. Our favorite was actually Tech Fuck Fest. We thought that it was a very interesting, it was very interesting to see the different ways that we all, interpreted sex in itself, but also it felt very body horror in a way that we really loved. And you've been in multiple of our issues. Hashtag Ink and Ivy repeat contributor. But, honestly, we were really, really in love with all of your pieces. Okay, because we do not subscribe to the capitalist nature of Zoom, we do have another meeting link that A will actually put in the chat below, because we are unfortunately starting on our 40-minute limit. We're pretty close to it, and I don't want to take any chances. So we'll see you there.